Hello, it is I, Dr. Brian Lorgan 111, and having completed the map Nova Arcana, I am back to just kind of talk through thoughts about the map and, I don't know, reminisce and discuss things that I liked and didn't like about the map. So that's what we're in for today.
Did
Ah.
somebody say talking about the map?
Hello!
Why, hello, Brian. Lorgon 111, one and
Hello,
only.
renderXR, creator of the Untold Stories series of CTM maps.
Ooh, it's good to hear my full name being said like that.
I see. Indeed. Um, yeah, you have kind of a snazzy studio. I guess I kind of have seen your head a lot recently as a result
Oh,
of being
yeah.
kind of like on a number of mobs, but I don't know that I've seen your full skin anytime recently.
Oh, yeah. I actually designed a full skin for the mob themselves
I see.
originally, and then I was like, I kind of like it, and other people seem to like it more as well because it looked more kind of original, and so I stuck with it.
I see. Neat.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, we are here at the start of the map, and yeah, we were talking about kind of like how to walk through things, and it kind of makes sense just to kind of talk about the big picture. I'm gonna leave the floor to you in just a moment, but just like the highest order bit, having played through this map and having played through a number of your other maps, I think this is your best map. I enjoyed it a whole lot. I will have many comments and criticisms as we walk through, but I don't want that to be those to overshadow the fact that I really enjoyed this one, the way that it's put together, and I'm just good at like nitpicking a lot of little details. So thank you for making the map because
you're
I did have
welcome.
fun. And yeah, I have some comments about the big picture, but I wanted to start just by asking you kind of like about the overall design. I've heard that Hollow Knight was an inspiration, but yeah, what are like the origins of this map and what was kind of like your big picture thinking?
So originally I was gonna have a different map as Untold Stories number 7, but I was working on a little mini map that was just going to be an intersection where you could see every area basically from it.
Uh-huh.
And um that's basically what is intersection 1.
I see.
And then I made Verde Passage, and I was thinking of releasing that as just a small mini map. And then I kept on working on it, and then it became this monstrosity of a map.
That's interesting because it did feel like a little bit like Intersection 1 was it was much more kind of integrated the way that Calamity Canyon was into one map that had a bunch of areas that you could kind of see a lot of them from one another. And then as you branched out into the other intersections or whatever, it had more of kind of individual area feels, even though a lot of intersection 2 and 3 were still kind of like visible from one another. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And intersection 2 and 3, the idea was I eventually overhauled it, but essential idea was that you had a massive chasm with two intersections on top of each other, and kind of like how Inferno Mines had the vistas going on.
Right, right.
That was the idea with this one as well. And that was going to be all kind of lava themes. So you had like overgrown, and then that's like in section 1, and then in section 2 was fire themed or lava themed, and then the third one was more darkness, void, like deep underground
Right.
themed with like bioluminescent
I see.
mushrooms.
Yeah, those trees that were kind of like all around intersection 4 looked really cool.
Hmm. And I really wanted to see if I can kind of get that open world feeling, but then inside of a cave. And then less like how Myriad Caves did it, where they were more secluded areas.
Mm-hmm.
They were more still interconnected, but you would mostly see them and not actually go to them,
Right.
which still allowed for intersections, which I wanted in there because originally the map was also going to be more of a beginner map. So more similar to Corona Trials in terms of difficulty.
Uh-huh. And yeah, it definitely was the case. I mean, what you're talking about in terms of the way that intersection 2 and intersection 3 worked out, that I think you totally nailed that from the point of view of you could have vistas to kind of see the other areas, but you were still very much like in a particular area when you're working on that. If you're in the mines, you could look down into Submarine City, but unless you had a big accident, it wasn't the case that you were going to travel from one to the other just because it was visible on the screen. And there were a number of
Hmm.
areas like that throughout intersection 2 and 3. And this is also,
Unless,
oh, go ahead.
unless you utilize the freedom of water buckets, which was also
Ah,
semi-intended, where you would skip around and just have fun with just tackling wherever you want to go. Because
right,
from intersection 3, if you did fall off once and you haven't found intersection 2, I expected people to grab water from the puddle and
right.
just make a waterfall down and find intersection 2 that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know that I saw anybody kind of like put down a kind of permanent water stream as an elevator between the two areas. I've been watching a number of other people play the map as well, and it didn't really kind of occur to me as a thing to do. But it does lead into one of the questions I was going to ask you when we got there. But since we're talking about it now, intersection 2 and 3, like I didn't go back and think about it too hard, but they seemed kind of relatively even in terms of difficulty. And a number of people did find intersection 3 before they found intersection 2. So was there in any kind of like intended order in terms of like the difficulty curve rising between those two, or did it really matter? Do you even think about on the spectrum of intersection, more linear kind of branching maps to completely open world? Do you even think about that in
I,
terms of a spectrum and like not naming or not numbering the intersections and like naming them or doing something different?
yeah, I was really thinking of naming intersection 2 and 3 just 2A and 2B, but then it would still infer that there was an order to them.
Right. So
And
yeah, did you
it's
ever name them, think about naming it intersection Fred and intersection Barney or like whatever like
yeah, I was thinking about how could I circumvent the idea, and then I felt it just became too confusing, and I just named them
yeah, that's fair.
2 and 3.
That's fair.
But yeah, they're basically the same difficulty. 3 is a bit more difficult, but not by much.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. And I think I did some of 3 before 2. I don't remember exactly what order I ended up tackling stuff because I wanted to. Um, yeah, I was more in that I'm out of practice with Minecraft and I was more in the survive in any way you can think of. And so trying to like get advantages and find better loot was something I was trying to do at that stage of the map.
Mm,
Um, yeah, all right. Um, so yeah, we kind of talked about kind of like the way the main intersection areas were put together. In general, yeah, I think you still you still have nailed the uh, open world field of tightly wound maps, just the way the areas kind of blend together. And it'll probably be better when we're actually looking at a few of them together. But when we do get into the map, I do want to ask you like, do you have to like cut and paste areas like close together and try different ways to get them to fit together, or do you design it that way from the outset?
oh yeah, we'll probably get to that per area,
Okay.
but that's really a thing that just comes to me. That's just the way I map, and just the way I like things to feel as I make them, where they're very open and non-linear. Because um, I don't really like linearity in games, at least blatant linearity,
Mm,
and maps as well. Like I can go through some CTM maps and just get bored because you're putting area after area after area and they're just enclosed, so it feels like you're just walking a path, and
right.
that doesn't really spark my imagination too much.
Indeed.
I feel for older maps like Vex's maps, you were new to intersection maps, so you didn't like exactly know what
Right.
things you would expect. But it's been so many years, you kind of have to shake it up.
Yeah. And yeah, I like that. There'll probably be some other places where it comes up where I talk about. I guess one of them I can talk about in terms of just like the big picture right now, in terms of there's this whole kind of like CTM conventions that has, evolved over the years. I don't know that it's evolved very much. It's kind of like been kind of static for a lot of it, I feel like, over the years or whatever. And then you go and violate a few in different spots. There were a few big
Violate.
picture things that I wanted to talk about, but one of them was traps in this map. I'm not sure how you pulled it off. I don't usually like traps that much. And I feel like traps in CTM maps have been kind of predictable, and somehow you made the traps extremely unpredictable in this map. So kudos to you on that. And it wasn't just me. Like I've watched a bunch of people, and people think there's going to be a trap, and there's not a trap there, but instead there's a trap there, or they get surprised by a thing, or even just like going and like looking in the furnaces to try to find extra items hidden there. Nope, there aren't extra items hidden in the furnaces. They're just there as decoration. Um, there were a number of places where you subverted people's expectations in a way that ended up working out very well, I think. So, and that's just kind of like throughout the map. And so that was one of the things I listed in my big picture things to talk about.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know how I kind of did that. I mean, I guess most of the time when I think about like a hallway and it looks kind of trappy, then I will not put a trap there because it looks trappy. So it's too obvious. Unless I really want to do that, like the two whites hallway close to the fundaments
Uh-huh.
with like the piston falling out thing.
Yep. Yep. Um, yeah, I remember that specifically had the diamond block at the end or whatever to, and an amethyst, I think, to lure you in.
Hmm.
And yeah, I say amethyst. We're in a updated version of the map. I guess we'll see it at some point. But I guess, do you know what version I played? I guess have there been like 5 updates to the map or something?
You played in version 1.1.1, and this is 1.1.4 or 5.
Okay.
This is the newest version. Um, yeah, like you said, money has been renamed and kind of small texture change. Mojang has the I don't know what they're doing, but I literally had like in Horrify until story 6, they
Uh-huh.
had a block called Basalt,
Uh-huh.
and it looked almost identical to what Blackstone is.
I see.
And then they have the nerve to actually add uh, a Blackstone looking texture to the game and name it and have a different basalt block.
And
So and then I add stalactites and stalagmites, and then Mojang does that as well in the future update.
right.
And then I add amethyst, and then they have the just the and
Unmitigated
they
gall.
yes, my frustration is impalpable.
I see. And so did you just so now I guess it's Garnet in this version of the map as the
Yeah,
currency. And did you just
Garnet.
do that basically so that it wouldn't conflict if you ever like update to a new version or wouldn't confuse people or yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking of naming it Topaz, but then I have to make it yellow orangey, and then it looks too much like either gold or redstone
I see.
because
Yeah. Having
the
unique colors
purple
is good.
purple ore texture is unique because it's never used.
Right. Right.
So the texture's faintly also shifted to a more purple reddish texture, but it's kind of minimal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of other big picture stuff, the healing mechanic with the soul stars, um, very, I don't know, similar-ish or reminiscent to Hollow Knight, but I don't play that many games, so there's probably a lot of games that have kind of like similar mechanics. But yeah, what were your
Yeah.
kind of thoughts there? And do
It
you think you'd do that more of that in the future?
I always have a small bit of frustration with the healing of this game, especially as it's changed over the years.
Right.
And I was playing Hollow Knight and I really liked that game. And one of the things that jumped out to me is how quickly you can move around while still you're being so fragile at the same time. And the game awards you for taking the least amount of hits
Mm-hmm.
and dealing damage, because when you take damage you basically lose health, but when you hit an enemy you get soul back with which you can heal. And I basically wanted that system as well because it's just really dynamic and while still making the player feel fragile as well, because in my old system you could just grab steak and just chow down on it and enemies could beat on you for
Right.
however long. and then it would be just about the amount of food you have, and now it's more amount of soul you have, which is quite minimal,
Right.
like the maximum.
Yeah, and so I think it does kind of like cater to a little bit of a different play style. Another thing I didn't realize until I was gotten a little bit into the map was the fact that the souls are only on the ground for a few seconds before they expire. Also, really
Yes.
encourages more melee combat. If you just try to like stand back and hit everybody with the bow, like you can take out mobs that way, but then if you have taken some damage or whatever, you're not necessarily going to get your soul back unless you run over there really quickly. And so it can change some people's, I don't know, fighting strategies or play styles a bit, and so kind of caters more to one style than another.
Yeah, that came from I think my alpha playthroughs, where I realized that stuff would stay on the ground for so long that I just would keep it there and then would run back to grab the stars,
I
and then it
see.
would kind of defeat the point of what's going on.
Right. Yeah. And in
So I
Hollow
made it
Knight in
like
particular, yeah, it's actually hitting the guy with
instant.
your nail or whatever who does it or whatever. And so this was at
Exactly.
least a close approximation to kind of putting the emphasis on melee combat.
Yeah, I could have made it instant, but then it would become difficult, especially for multiplayer. Because
Yes.
multiplayer, you have just a set amount of mobs.
Right.
So, say I need souls and you kill one, then I need to quickly run towards it to where the soul is.
Right.
Otherwise, it despawns. So I tried to use a time of 10 seconds before it despawns.
Um, and in other big picture kind of stuff that's kind of related to fighting in the mobs, it did seem there were a lot of natural spawns that had armor. Did you use local difficulty or anything else?
No, I think that is just because I've been in the map for so long.
I see. Okay, so it just naturally has kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, especially because I use mapping more server-side tools and not
Mm,
external tools.
I see.
Like I'm shattered.
Yeah, I know that I felt, and yeah, when we actually look at the individual areas, that some of the first couple of areas were some of the hardest, and then most of the map was kind of medium difficulty, and then the very last section uh, was very difficult again.
Yeah, I think because you were in one of the earlier versions, you also had a harder time. Because I did remove vines and spawners,
Hmm.
especially vines.
Yeah,
I
and
did a
so I
lot of trimming.
guess yeah, maybe as we go kind of like into different areas of the map or whatever, like you can talk about when things get changed or updated in some of the different versions, and I have some questions about yeah some changes that may have happened just based on what I've seen from other people's playthroughs.
Hmm. For people who are curious, there's also with the map download, there's also a little update log
Right.
of all the stuff that I updated.
Yeah, I only kind of glanced at it when I was downloading the map just to put on this server so that we could do a walkthrough together.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, and I also think it's kind of I don't know, I kind of associate it with your style, but I don't know that it's your style versus just like a style. It was mostly vanilla mobs with I guess there was one stacked mob of the creeper riding the cave spider and a few kind of recurring mobs with the
The
nader
trident.
dwellers at the
Yeah,
end
the
and the
natives.
shroom guys at the beginning. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of like a handful of like custom mobs or whatever, and so mostly kind of just vanilla mobs with different things.
Yeah, that's one of the nitpicks I have, and I know some other mappers do that as well, where you would go into some CTM maps and they would have 4 custom mobs per area, and then you would have to relearn every time about,
Right.
okay, what does this mob do? What does that mob do? And I also dislike when you're just reskinning a zombie when you could
Hmm.
actually give it a new purpose. Like, at least give it an unique attribute that makes the mob unique instead of
Right. Just being
just
a
having,
skin.
yeah. So it's mainly my style to use vanilla mobs with combination of unique custom mobs that have more purpose, unique traits to them.
Indeed.
Although with the netherite added and the surplus amount of diamonds near the end, I had to resort to more custom mobs as well.
Yeah. Definitely. Did you get a chance to like see the end of my playthrough? I know you'd watched through a certain point.
I think until episode 25, about where you entered the final area.
Yeah.
So I came pretty far.
Netherite armor is very good. And it also, in
Mhm.
addition to being very good, it gives me more confidence to take risks than I usually do. And so I was playing right at the edge of my limit. And I think, like, in the last, I don't know, I want to say like 3 areas or something, I ended up going down to like half a heart like 3 or 4 times. So
Oh
it
wow.
was a lot of fun in that regard. Um,
Ooh.
Yeah, and since we were just talking about kind of like the big picture and the healing mechanic or whatever, like someone mentioned it in my chat. I saw Kit, is the only person I've seen use hoppers and a mob farm in order to get the soul stars into a shulker box to carry around. I presume you see that as an exploit, but at the same time, like, was that something that you thought about like when creating the map, or was that did you when you saw Kit do it, did you go, oh my goodness, how clever?
Yeah, I actually thought like actually I saw War do it as well on his stream. I've
Okay,
actually not gotten that far into kids playthroughs
got it.
because it's actually hard watching so many streams and let's plays of all the maps.
I believe you mean fun.
Fun, exactly. But on one side, I don't think it's too much of an exploit in the long run because you still need to put it down and need to grab it out of there. So I
Uh,
guess it's a small refill, but yeah, I did think like that's actually pretty clever,
hmm.
but I don't think it will help too much.
Yeah. I imagine it might help a bit, but yeah, it was not something that I thought of. If I had thought of it, I still don't think I would have used it, but I would have liked to have thought of it on my own. But yeah, I'm less up to date with, Minecraft. I feel like I don't really play Minecraft anymore. But I played this map, so kudos to you.
Mhm. I
So
was so excited when I heard you were gonna play it, especially because you're always so good at finding small little nitpicks
well,
what the system could
yeah,
improve on.
get ready. I've got a big document over here.
Big document.
But yeah, if it's helpful to you to improve any future maps that you might be working on, then yeah, I'm happy to offer that feedback. And also, yeah, just it's fun to have the conversation. Um,
Yeah, especially in terms of the healing system, I would like feedback because I know No Leaf Clover and Curlio
mhm,
had some problems with it, at
mhm.
least some negative feedback with it. So I would like to improve it more.
Right. And yeah, definitely in multiplayer, like I saw them. I mean, it's you can kind of like help out, someone else by, shooting the mob that they're standing near or whatever, but then you also sometimes end up picking up the souls that the other person was trying to pick up, and so there is
Yeah.
a bit of that kind of stuff. Um, in terms of like updates and also just to start going through the map, but by all means stop me if you have other big picture stuff you want to do. There was the idiot
Hmm.
test here at the beginning, which was very reminiscent of Legendary. Um, and yeah, one of the things I saw was in multiplayer, I guess it didn't originally work because I think Clover and Curlio, since we were just mentioning them,
Yeah,
it didn't teleport the right player.
there was an ad S missing, I think.
I see.
Also, it doesn't work on creative, so you might see it in
Oh, yeah,
normal.
okay, so I'm stuck. All right. So if I go
Yeah.
into game mode survival, then
Then you'll
presumably,
get teleported
yeah, I
back.
get teleported back. Okay.
Yeah, so what it used to do is it used to I think Curlio got stuck in the wall because both people got teleported at once.
Right.
But um if one person is in the correct spot, you get teleported he gets teleported back correctly. But if the other person is standing on a spot where because it's a relative teleport,
Right. Yeah.
the other person will get teleported into the wall.
Right. Yeah, so I saw that happen, and that was a really unfortunate thing to like happen at the beginning of the map to be someone's first impression. So I'm glad that you had an update to fix that. Um,
Yeah, immediately when multiplayer, because there were quite a lot of multiplayer
oh yeah,
issues
I
going
having
on.
written command stuff, I know exactly what you're talking about there.
A lot of issues that people actually didn't notice, but I immediately noticed because I made it.
Hmm.
Like some of the records not playing correctly when you put them in. The very last record, the one actually I
The
haven't.
gold one at the end, or the
Yeah, the
just the
gold one, the gold
yeah.
one. I was about to say I don't actually remember if I actually got everything because I
So
haven't
yeah, I
gotten that
yeah
far.
I did get that was very cool at the end. I enjoyed that a lot.
And
Um,
that one says hi when you put that record
yeah,
in.
the item frame.
That was my debug thing. I accidentally left that there.
I speculated that that was a debug thing as opposed to an intended
Hmm.
something, but that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and there were a lot of other issues going on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, like I don't know that, yeah, in my single player playthrough, other than, and yeah, I've talked to you about it and I know you've made some updates or whatever, and it didn't actually bother me. Like my system was able to handle it, but the command inefficiencies or whatever, like I know, were possibly contributing to some people who were playing on low end systems, like struggling with the map and having bad frame rate and different
Yeah,
things.
that's partly due to my inability to properly optimize commands, and also due to 1.16 being
Right.
a dumbfire in terms of optimization.
Yeah. And
There's
then on top of that, yeah, as whenever that happens, then it means there's more people who are using, um, I can't think of the name of the client that a bunch of people were using.
Optify.
There's like a new one instead that a number
Oh
of
yeah,
people.
sodium,
Sodium, yeah, is
lithium.
the other one I was thinking of.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
so I'm sure
also
they all have different performance profiles and bugs as well. And so then it, means that you potentially are being called on to like, yeah.
yeah. I can list them all to you if you want.
In any case, yeah. So, yeah,
It's my favorite
performance
when
is always a problem in this game, and
people ask me, "Hey, my item disappeared inside of the death totem. How can I fix this? Is there a problem with your map?" I'm like, question one: do you use a bucket server? Please tick yes or no.
yeah.
And
And I don't remember. I guess the idiot test kind of was something that would like test the commands at the beginning, but yeah, I know like in bingo, like it like spawns you into a place where you have to like press a button that will only work if the commands are kind of like set up and running the way that certain things are supposed to go. And that was just my way of trying to
yeah,
short circuit all the people who were like, "This isn't working." And
there's a fix in the map where if you have add one more data pack, which gets generated by bucket and spigot,
uh
then it gets put in the data pack list. If it detects one more than there currently is,
mm-hmm.
then it will send a warning to you saying, "Hey, you should
I see.
use a
That's clever.
vanilla server."
Yeah,
Yeah, that was not my idea. That was Suso's
I see.
five Uso.
But yeah, it's just one of those kind of like meta considerations that mappers have to deal with in terms of
Yeah.
overhead of making maps that other people are going to play.
Mm-hmm. So actually don't remember. Did you find any secrets here in this one?
I didn't look around. I remember the waterfall. I might have swam to the top of it, and there was. I forget if there was something there or not. I think some people swam up there but didn't actually see it, and other people did. And I don't
Yeah,
remember which
I
camp
was
I was
gonna say,
in.
didn't you just go on top and then said there was nothing? Like
That's
quite a lot of
that's
people.
quite possible. Possible. Yeah, I don't remember.
There's the first healing item. That's something I want to change. I want to stop using potions. I want to give
That's
out.
okay. Go ahead.
I want to because we were having lots of talks about the inventory space
Yes.
problem,
Right.
and this map really contributes to that as well,
Uh huh.
especially in terms of the amount of potions and reliance on that because of the healing system. Because
Right.
it's kind
Right.
of like UHC where you want
Yes.
healing items, so you have regen potion, instant health
Right. And
potions.
so yeah, I had golden apples on my bar for most of the map, and part of the reason was because they stack and they're a healing item. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I was thinking I should add like silver apples or diamond apples or something done, and just
Yeah.
make them in with a resource pack, and then give
Right.
those out
So
limited.
yeah, that was
And
one of the questions I was going to ask you, or criticisms, or however you want to phrase it, or whatever. Which is, you had all these food items that gave effects, but there was only like four different types of effects, and you had like 30 different types of foods that like these 10 give this effect or whatever. And I was like, why didn't you co-opt those to do splash potion? You can have, eating bread gives you
yeah,
speed, or eating cookies gives you speed, or
I
something.
I'm thinking of just not using potions in a future map when I use the system again, and just changing the food up
Right.
to
And then
Like,
you can always retexture them or rename them or do whatever you want in order to communicate it easily to the player, since it'll kind of, break with the player's convention. But
yeah,
yeah.
and just rename chicken to extra hot chicken and make it give fire resistance, something like
Um,
that.
yeah, but yeah, something that basically lets you do potion effecty things without creating the inventory problem by just reusing stacking things. And food was just an obvious thing since you're already using food in different ways to give some certain types of potion effects. So yeah, that was one of the
Yeah.
things I was going to get to. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
Mm-hmm. And also the lobby is also good for killing yourself intentionally to test out the totem
So
mechanics.
I did do that once. I don't know that I would say the lobby is good for it. I think I had to struggle to like climb on top of some trees and then jump off a couple of times to take fall
There's
damage.
there's actually some magma over here as well.
I didn't think about it, and that's just me being out of practice with
Yeah, and
Minecraft mechanics.
it's also kind of hidden. You could drown yourself. You could grab tulips to test your inventory
I did
as
grab
well.
tulips to test my inventory. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just thinking through the playthrough, like I think I'm the only person who I saw intentionally take a death in the lobby for that purpose. Obviously, some people unintentionally took a death suffocating in the wall with the multiplayer bug. Um, but yeah, one of the first criticisms I was going to get when we get to the opening sequence, the big picture one, and we kind of in private conversation or whatever, like debated back and forth in terms of like how much you tell the player versus how much you leave it open for the player to discover. Like I would have liked a few things spelled out or explained a little bit more. But I feel strongly, and this is an opinion, that you should have killed the player in the opening fall to force them to test the death mechanic, and then like maybe it like resets the spawn point somewhere down there, just like in a hallway around the corner from where they fall, and like maybe you give them a loot chest that says it's dangerous to go alone and gives them a wooden sword to make sure they had something in their inventory so that they could actually see the totem and go and step on it and see how it works in order to understand the mechanic. Because I find that I don't remember if I heard other people like voicing the thing, that it's scary to be like in the middle of an area and you've kind of read about how the death totem is going to work, but now you're like, oh gosh, if I die, like exactly
Yeah,
what's going
you
to
don't
happen
know
and what am
how
I
it
worried
works.
about? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually didn't think about intentionally killing the player like that.
Yeah. And so you kind of, when we get to, when you first pick up the spell, you kind of tutorialize it by intentionally having them walk through a tripwire and damaging them. So they'll try out the healing spell, and it gives us a chance to like see that it's a reusable potion that you can drink multiple times. And so I thought that since there was the opening fall anyway, it would be like just the perfect opportunity that already fits into the opening cutscene before you get into the, starting area, that it was the perfect opportunity to just tutorialize that through the storytelling as well.
Hmm.
So I felt like that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that. Mm, what other thing? Um, oh yeah, actually, also, if you quickly want to glance at this,
Hmm.
there were some other people working on this map as well.
I see.
The Actually, I'm not the best at map crediting as well. Like you might have noticed there's no
It
sign saying map by renderXR as well at
right.
the start because I
Um,
just tried to avoid using too much text,
yeah,
which
I
is
know you in general. Yeah, we're trying to use very little text, and yeah, there was also like in the monument staircase or whatever, there was the credits kind of hidden under there or whatever that had these same credits, I believe.
hmm
But yeah,
yeah,
having it at the start of the map is good.
it was an experiment to try to see like how what's the least amount of text I could cope into the start of the map so people like Kit would not just look at it and say bye.
Right, right. Yeah, it's
Because
definitely a trade-off because yeah, the behavior of players like I put way too much text in the start of uh,
that's
the map that I made, but
that's also a really big nitpick I had with somebody else's map. Well, just a lot of other people's maps where you
hmm,
open a book and it explains to you how their loot tiers work.
I
And
see.
then I look at and it's like this is a magical item. This is an uncommon item. Red stands for this. And I'm like, nice. I'm never really gonna look at it too much because it's not really a mechanic, it's just a flavor thing.
Right.
So it doesn't mean much to me.
And yeah, there's that, and there's also like the kind of like time dependent context to the extent that you can choose to delay tutorializing a thing until it actually becomes relevant to the player. Means you don't have to front load it all at the beginning. It's hard to next necessarily contextually give a tutorialization in game that doesn't use a whole lot of text. Um, but so it's kind of very hard design problem sometimes or whatever. But yeah, I think people try to compensate too much or try to talk too much about their own perspective as a map maker rather than the player's perspective, kind of like in the starting books.
Yeah, like what the map maker, what the player needs to know at the time versus what he can learn later and what probably should learn later on his own as well.
Indeed. And so, yeah, while I do think, and there was a few other places that I might call out where things weren't explained particularly well, at the same time, it was the case, and this also comes back to where you talked about the fact that you don't use too many custom mobs throughout the map or whatever. There was a lot. It's a big map, so you have plenty of time, and there's lots of consistency throughout. So the things you have plenty of opportunity to discover various mechanics on your own. Um, yeah, we haven't gotten into the map at all yet, and we are like more than half an hour in. But since we're talking about big picture there or whatever, the fact that food could give you different effects, I think I might have just seen someone else this week, watching someone else, but of like the 10 playthroughs I watched, I think I'm the only person who even decided to try eating food to see if it had any effect. Like everybody else was like, oh, we have soul stars. Food has no effects. Why is he giving us wheat seeds? I'll completely ignore this until
Yeah,
I get a book that explicitly tells me that bread is going to give me haste or whatever.
that is
And
why there are book like food chests still around.
right. But yeah, I was kind of flabbergasted that you actually like handed food chest kind of stuff to people and they still were about to just completely ignore them. And so,
Mm,
yeah, again, some of it's like I don't get the mindset of players, but I was wondering like in the map rules here or whatever, like if it should have said like this map has a number of interesting mechanics. You should feel free to experiment and discover some of them on your own or something like to encourage that. I don't know if that would change players' behavior at all, and it's more text to put in the starting
yeah,
book, but
I was thinking of adding a third book for that, but then it's like, what do I say?
yeah.
I could explain, hey, you have different healing. That is one. Two, um you have quicker swords, which is always fun when people find out about that on their own. You have different food mechanics. You have the death totems. It's quite a big amount
Right.
of
There's
stuff.
a lot of things that are kind of like different mechanics, and I don't know. It's hard to hint at people that they might want to be curious and try things without explaining the things that they should be curious and try things about. And maybe it's just, if, other people don't care about that, or, like some people, even if they had access to the food that was going to give them caste and just like didn't care because they were just going to play through the map anyway, and that wasn't a big deal, like that's fine too. But I was just kind of surprised. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't have, uh, yeah, strong thoughts one way or another, but um, yeah, that was something else in the big picture since we were talking about it.
Yeah,
Should we,
I I basically learned from it.
yeah, should we start going into the map itself, or do you have any other big picture thoughts before we go there?
Not really. I guess as we walk, I can just mention that there's also a half health. Um,
Oh yeah, Dream is
yeah.
playing with it, and now that he's gotten over the initial difficulty hump and gotten a little bit used to it, it seems like he's surviving okay. He's the only person I think I saw that chose to do it. Um,
TJ the Obscure did as well.
okay, I watched TJ's first episode and then decided, having played, myself a lot further into the map, that this was not going to be his style of map, and I don't know if he enjoyed it. I wouldn't expect that he enjoyed it very much. Um,
Um, yeah, I'm not gonna, I guess, say anything about it
okay,
because I don't want to put words in his mouth. He basically, when he finished the map, he didn't say anything about it.
I see.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna just assume he tried not to be rude and didn't want to say that
But
he
yeah,
didn't like
I
it.
mean, the stuff that we're talking about in terms of combat mechanics and like having the melee guys, and if you just stand back and hit your bow, or like his style of playthrough is typically like ignore all the mobs and just run through and put some light and get to the disc. And that style of playthrough, like Doesn't work particularly well in this map, I would imagine, unless you're just like super amazing.
Yeah, his main issues. He seemed to not want to use the death totems because he felt like not wiping was unfair.
I see. That's also interesting too. Yeah, I didn't even think
So
about
he basically, when he
hardcore kind
died,
of
it was
players. Yeah,
all. Well, when he died, it was always a wipe for him because he
I see.
never picked up any totem
I see. Yeah,
unless
I
really close to the end of the
right.
map.
My personal feelings on that have definitely like evolved over time, and there was probably a time in the past where I might have felt the same way as he did now. And yeah, we've had private conversations. Like now, like I've completely swung to the other end of the pendulum, and I prefer the death totem mechanic to just playing your items on the ground, like Minecraft does by default. But I would prefer even more now just to have keep inventory on. And possibly have some other, mechanic. Maybe you lose some money, or maybe you lose some maximum hearts until you go and retrieve your corpse, which is kind of
Oh
similar to what
yeah.
Hollow Knight does, or something, or different things along those lines. But just inventory, you and I have talked about it a bit. That like inventory in this game is so bad that keep
Yeah.
inventory gives you the not having to deal with sorting your items again when you pick everything up, which the death totem tries to do a good job of, but it just never quite works out.
Oh, you have yeah. There's also an update to this that actually keeps track of. Say you died with a sword um
Slot 3 or
your
whatever.
third slot,
Uh-huh.
then it actually will put it back now at the third slot
So yeah,
thanks
I mean,
to
it gives you
item skill.
the version that I played gave you the items in the same order, but the problem is on the way back to your corpse, you accidentally pick up two dirt blocks and a bush or something. Uh,
Yes, so now if it's empty, it
oh, now only if it's empty it
basically
fills it. Okay,
yeah now it puts it back. I don't think it replaces it like
I see.
straight up.
Yeah. Okay, that would probably improve things. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if I see that in other people's playthroughs at some point. Um,
Another kind of funny because I also kind of pendulumed to the other end also a bit after
uh-huh.
talking to Alicio, that's the map maker of
Right.
Ragecraft,
Yeah, definitely.
because he didn't enjoy the idea of messing with such a standard like mechanic,
Right.
especially for new players. And he kind of liked the idea of having the items also be more fragile when you die, so you have to like you really have that rush of getting there on time
Uh-huh.
because now it's really easy to get your items back. So I was thinking maybe I could also see if I can get like a merge between that feeling of urgency
Mm-hmm.
and then the kind of the current system of totems.
The other thing I do like about the totems, like eventually we'll get into the map. The other thing I do like about the totems that you didn't hear is the fact that you gave the choice that you could either have it so that if you die with a totem on the ground, the old totem dies and the new totem replaces it. So there was still, even if there wasn't the urgency in terms of time to get back, there was still the risk associated with it. If you died along the way to trying to get back your corpse, you were going to lose all the original items. But you had the option to do that or to leave multiple totems around. And I saw different playthroughs who are doing different things, and I think that is very good in terms of giving players that, because I know there's definitely um, different different styles of players who prefer one versus the other, and so that gives people the choice. And um, I definitely think that's great. I'm definitely more into like giving players the choice of like how they want to play things these days.
Yeah, because you can because this game is it's not really about the death, it's more about the resource management. And you can make it hardcore by yeah losing your stuff when you die twice. But I would also like to cater more to casual players who are just here for a fun time and not for
Right.
a
And
stressful death loop.
right. And yeah, there's the resources as you said, and then yeah, you said something with the urgency, and so yeah, if you did have that, I'd also want the knob for that, because yeah, um there's people who sometimes, I don't know, real life things going on or whatever, like you're in a rush to get back and the phone rings or something or whatever, and you can pause the game, maybe you're playing multiplayer or whatever, and it's nice to be able to turn off the urgency if you don't want to play with that kind of stuff. But at the same time,
Uh,
I do realize that with the death totems, having the
it's
urgency no longer be there and not have to worry about a 5-minute timer like did change the tenor of kind of how it felt going back for your items, even if there was still some risk when you just had the
Oh,
one
yeah.
totem available. So yeah,
Sounds like Don't Starve syndrome, where the
yeah,
game cannot be paused, and food, day and night cycle, you always need to like really plan ahead and
yeah.
schedule your time well.
And then the
Um,
one final thing I'll say there is at the same time, while I like having all those choices do obviously mean it's more development time and complexity for the map maker. So there's trade-offs there as well.
yeah, we're gonna start the map and we're gonna derail this floor.
I see. You're gonna derail our conversation so that we can derail this floor.
And start the map.
All right. Who's doing the honors?
Shall I
Yeah.
do the honors? 1, 2, 3, and go!
Opening cinematic.
Dramatic. And then right as you hit the water,
Mm-hmm.
the slow down version or pitch down version
Right.
of 11 plays. Oh, no, it's
Okay.
13.
Here's another thing in terms of criticisms. It's very loud. When you go into the monument, you tell people to turn down the music kind of stuff to an appropriate level. And here, like, it was very loud the first time. I feel like everybody, all the playthroughs I saw were. And yeah, I wish you would have told people to turn it down in the book upstairs rather than waiting until the monument to tell them to turn it down, because I think you can't, like, once the tune has started playing, I think like adjusting the sound doesn't change it at all.
It does, but I think this one is actually bound to master.
Oh, that's the issue. Okay.
Yeah, I strongly dislike how. Oh yeah, it's also cut at a really short. When the amplitude of the song is really quiet as well. So
Mm,
when the song gets quiet, I just cut it off because it's too long and obnoxious for too long.
I see. But I love the just kind of like feel of being dropped down into this place and seeing all the stuff around you and then the music, and you kind of have nothing, but then you realize that some of the exploded blocks fell into your inventory, and so you do have a few blocks. I don't recall seeing another map that had kind of like an, I'm calling it an opening cinematic because I'm not sure how else to refer to it or whatever, something like
It
this, but I liked
is.
it a
It
lot.
is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. But it really reminded me of when I worked on Diversity Free, and Q Magnet said that these maps are always super boring because they don't do enough command stuff. And then I realized that kind of what gets you need to catch the player's attention. So literally, how I did that is instead of you getting teleported to an area,
Hmm.
I literally just throw just this exciting thing in front of you. Like the first few seconds already is like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah, so that was very cool. Um, and I like that a lot. Since we're here, and I'm not sure if we'll necessarily return back to here through Verde Passage or whatever. When I was here and then just kind of like finding the way up and out, that's kind of like the obvious way to go. Like there's a lot of gravel around, and so the player could pick up some blocks. And I think there is like a hidden chest over here, and there's another one like way up high somewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
there are 4 hidden chests in
I see.
total.
So there were some things to explore, as kind of like there usually are. Here's the first hidden chest, apparently, which has a golden apple
Mhm.
and some torches. How nice. In fact, I'm going to take a torch, so if I want to place some at some point, I have them in my inventory handy. Boop. Um, and, but yeah, when I return to this area later, when you find it at the one end of Verde Passage, I think, I was kind of
Mhm.
disappointed to discover that it was just an opening cinematic set and there wasn't really. I was thinking like maybe, the pathway between intersection 2 and intersection 3 actually is one of these bridges going through here or something like that. Um, and that's maybe unfair for me to be disappointed like that. And I should just be happy that you had the Easter egg of you could actually come back to this area from somewhere else in the map. But nevertheless, that's how I felt.
Yeah, that's the feedback I actually got a lot from my beta testers, and I didn't know how to properly actually go
Yeah, I don't know that there's
around
a
it as well.
solution to it. It's just kind of like a
Because
commentary of how I felt.
I think it's pretty obvious just hearing me talk about it that this was really like an afterthought,
Hmm.
especially since I made intersection 1 first, like I
Right,
said earlier.
right.
Then I was like, how should I start the map? I knew kind of what I wanted to do with the potion, but would you get in that? You wouldn't just walk into it. That would be kind of anticlimactic,
Right,
or kind
right.
of like a. So I thought it would be a really cool start if you just drop down like some part of the map, but I didn't really want to make a whole new extra area when I already had like too much planned for this map.
Right. And also you had to kind of pick an area that was going to be free of mobs because you're trying to just steer the player without distractions and get them to getting their first healing potion and all that kind of stuff. Oh,
Yeah,
this one. Okay, I didn't see this one.
yeah. There's this one.
Okay,
That's
same loot.
number two. There's one at the back of this pillar.
I see.
Little step this up. And then there's one on top for people who are curious.
Right. And that possibly also for
That one,
speedrunners, maybe?
well, it's really out of the way for speedrunners.
Okay. I just remember it
Basically,
was something good. I don't remember what it was.
for people who know the map, you can instantly, when you fall down, you can instantly catch this vine over here,
Got it.
and you can instantly just run towards here, break the
Right.
gravel right here, and then you can basically be on your way. Although that's a dangerous
Yeah,
route
it's a pretty
because
dangerous route, but at least over here you could also pick up the sun charm, I think it was.
yeah, and then there's a secret. Yeah, there's the sun charm over here, which is a really good item.
Right.
So there's a secret right here. This is the last
Yeah.
chest. And then there's one chest that nobody's found, and I expect
I
no
did see
one.
someone find it, I think. So let me follow you
The
now.
the big step one. This one right here.
Where is it exactly?
There's this gravel block. There's two gravel blocks in the wall,
I see.
and then
Yes.
the signature tacos with the last.
Yes. I just saw someone find this like a day or two ago. I think it was on YouTube, maybe. I don't remember who it was offhand. It might have been Dream. I can't remember, but someone did find it.
I also need to catch up on his.
Yeah,
His
there's never
stuff.
enough time.
Yeah, I actually do really need to watch Dreams because Dreams LP is really entertaining as well.
Yeah, he's one of the few people who's still doing YouTube and editing. Kit does it as well. Um,
He's also really good with music as well.
mhm.
So yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Kid does a bit of editing. Ward is mostly streaming.
Yeah, I kind
Yeah.
of went back and forth when I was playing this map, but I decided I was down enough on Minecraft that I just wanted to make things as easy as possible on myself, and I knew like I had audiences in both places who wanted to do it. So I'm gonna stream it, but I'll try to make it YouTube friendly to highlight, and that
Yeah,
worked out well for me. I'm not sure how it well worked for everybody who's watching.
editing takes so much time.
Yeah, Minecraft editing anyway. Like there's other video games that are you have to
Well,
do
yeah,
less.
I've done trailer editing before as well, and just small movies. So you
Oh
have to
yeah,
code
yeah.
a lot and lots of transitions.
Definitely, yeah. There's a huge sliding scale in terms of like how much editing you can do in order to make the videos really good. And
Yeah,
I,
if you do Zisto styles, then
right, yeah,
you really cut out all the dead space and still keep it flowing. That takes so much time.
yeah,
I have respect for that, man.
indeed.
So this is upcoming Half-Life set piece because Half-Life is a linear game where oh yeah wait
Someone has to be in
where
survival.
it's yeah exactly where sound effect where a lot of the set pieces in the game are in a linear because the whole game is linear.
Uh-huh.
Everything is kind of like set piece after set piece after set piece. And this is exactly what this is as well. You walk into the room and there's a trigger, and then it triggers the little set piece.
Right. So this was
That
also
really,
good in terms of yeah, like first impressions and just kind of being cool. To kind of overwhelm the player a little bit right at the beginning.
yeah. And also, if I grab this, oh, I don't have the resource spec enabled. Then you will
Oh
notice
yeah.
you get it as well.
Yep. Yeah, so I saw that in multiplayer, and so basically that was just to ensure that everybody always has it, and then obviously when you die, you get them back
hmm
immediately.
Yeah. So this is the, and there used to be a barrier block until you picked up that potion as well.
I see. Um, Yeah, I don't
So
know that I saw anybody who didn't try to pick it up, but that's not a bad safety mechanism.
yeah. Something else. Oh, there's the map logos in the ceiling.
Oh, I don't think I noticed that at the time, or like even in other people's playthroughs that I remembered it. But
I'm
yeah,
not
I guess we see it
sure.
again also at the end of Verde Passage and in at least one other spot.
Ye Another spot might be the Horrify logo. There used to be the Horrify logos, and then I changed them out.
I see. I did notice that a number of people sprinted through here fast enough that they didn't actually take damage, which is kind of a shame. Uh, and also, I just used up the damage potions. Now you're not going to get damaged if you're still in survival mode.
Oh yeah, I'm not in survival
Okay.
currently. I checked back.
Um, but yeah, I think it both, sets the mood of it's a CTM map and it's dangerous and there will be traps. But it's also, you just got the potion and here's your tutorialized opportunity now to, I just damaged you and you have a healing potion. You should try it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I did like that in terms of like explaining via gameplay as opposed to explaining via text. And I feel like just about everybody got the message there. And if not, they had an opportunity very soon at the start of the map to do it.
Yeah, and especially since it's a heart-shaped potion as well, it's kind of obvious what. Like I physically try to make it look like, hey, this is what you want for health,
Yeah,
and then yeah, so quite a lot of people were resentful on using it at the start, especially because they they didn't know it's infinite yet. So
right,
I kept
right,
waiting for people to use it, and then they would know, like, oh, you can use it indefinitely.
right. Yeah, so that goes back to, yeah, like having some kind of explanation or telling people to experiment or something. Um, but also, I don't have a good sense of like how many people like I guess it was probably Zam or somebody told me, and one of the things that got me kind of interested in this map is because he said, it's kind of inspired by Hollow Knight. And so, like, knowing that, like, I already had some vague ideas of what to expect in the map. And so, when I had the healing potion and you had soul stars or whatever, or the stars, rather than the normal, and I know from previous maps that you do different things with the healing system, like, I quickly kind of keyed into what was going to be going on there. But I don't know if other people didn't come in with the same expectations. Yeah, exactly. What your mindset would be to think of that.
Yeah. Also, going back to the Hollow Knight thing while we walk down the hallway.
Right? Do we have to be in survival?
Yeah, yeah, we do have to be. No sneaky sign. Okay, nice. Yeah, we have to be in survival right about here.
Okay. Oh, it teleported you because I'm not in
Oh yeah,
survival.
yeah. So basically, it teleports you
There we go.
up because you fall up from really high all the way to zero, to Y0 or around there. So I had to teleport the player back up because I made this area before the other part, so I didn't keep in mind that the player would start really low. So I had to teleport the player up, and also I wanted to basically block off the player from going back,
Right.
and then put the spawn here so they would have a shorter walking time because that's also something that's really dangerous with something like this. Is you
Yes.
will constantly have to fall down and then you have to run back. That came from one of my scrap maps where I became yeah, I didn't really want to
Right.
repeat that.
So yeah, the respawn point here was definitely good in terms of cutting down that travel time. But the one criticism I have, and I don't know if it was updated, the respawn point, I don't even know if you can do this, always faces you this way down the hallway or something, rather than the way that you need to go. And so the people that I've
I
seen who have respawned like all start going the wrong way and then go, wait a minute, no, 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 and go this way each time they respawn.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I
Like
don't
I
know if you
can
can, yeah, when you respawn, if you like always face east or something ridiculous like that. I don't
can I
remember how
do
Minecraft
90
works.
10? Yeah, you can actually do the angle.
Okay,
But you can only do horizontal one
I see.
apparently.
But yeah, that would steer people in the right direction. And so it's kind of, again, minor nitpick or whatever, but the people, Dream took a bunch of deaths at the beginning or whatever, and literally every time he went down the wrong way and then turned around because he was
Yeah.
facing that way. Yeah.
Yep. We've already passed 6 or
Yeah.
7 secret chests, and we're only just getting into the map.
That's
Move
that's a
over
render
from
map. you're very good at high secret density, which players who enjoy exploration like me really enjoy. So that is good. So yeah, we come into this opening, I don't know, panorama of an area or whatever, and you can already get a hint of the castle. And there's a fair amount of light. There's the new soul torches that I guess give off less light, which I imagine you're using them mostly for the aesthetic here, but also probably to like minorly cut down on mob spawns. I don't know how much is aesthetic versus mechanics in terms of
They were
design.
first redstone torches, and then they got blue torches, and I was like, "Yay, something different than redstone
I
torches!"
see.
And it really matched the magic theme of this map.
Yeah. So
But
yeah.
I also like the idea of, at least for future maps, of changing out the torch recipe to soul torches. So you just start with less powerful torches, and then when you get glowstone, you could make normal torches,
Oh,
for
I
example.
see. So that are just actually like a regression upgrade in terms of your light ability. That's an
Yeah.
interesting idea. Yeah, and now that yeah these exist in the game, like there's actually a way to do it reasonably in terms of mechanics.
Hmm.
Um,
The
yeah,
next map is all I can say to that.
these pits, I was again flabbergasted that I think there's only one other person I saw who like understood the purpose, and I thought everybody knew that mobs don't path over trapdoors correctly, and so this was obviously a kindness given by the map maker as a way to make mobs less threatening in the opening areas, as a place that you could just waltz all the zombies down into the hole in order to kill them. And nobody seemed to know that, and like I don't know what to say about that. Like I thought in terms of we were talking about, like bad CTM conventions or static CTM conventions. I thought this was like conventional and everyone was yeah, didn't get it.
Yeah.
And so I was just astonished by that.
Yeah, my favorite group of people from those group of people,
Uh-huh.
statistics, um, those are were like, oh, you think I'm gonna fall into that? That's a dumb trap, and walk away. And I just sit there face palming.
Yeah. Um
Um, and then a CTM rule, of course, is look up.
yeah. And I don't know, like half the people probably I think saw that chest that
Yeah,
I saw. So that was pretty good.
I thought this was really obvious. But yeah, that's just the map maker not knowing exactly what the player is thinking.
Right. And I'd forgotten, I think, that you could like climb on hanging vines and maybe even just
They,
like
they,
vines in general, like right at the start of the map or whatever. And so yeah, okay. So yeah, there's a way to like almost climb up here. And so I just had
some,
gathered a bunch of blocks and stacked up.
something you didn't know because you were away from the game and they added this really recently. You can actually just use space in the to just
So it's
climb
like
up.
climbing a water stream, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, like water before it became better.
All right. Um, yeah. So that is cool.
Big
Um,
happens.
Yeah, and it's also good to yeah. I mean, the pants are kind of a meme at this point or whatever, but it's good to give the player some armor. This area, like before you actually got into a named area, just here at the start of the map, was pretty kind. Did you turn off skeletons in this area?
Yeah, so in this area and the inside section of Silver Ruins.
Got
So when you
it.
go inside,
Okay, but then when you get outside is when the
yeah,
skeletons are first turned on.
this is technically part of Silver Ruins.
Got it. Um, yeah, because we haven't gotten there yet, but kind of like the courtyard that goes out to Silver Ruins, where you go out to the record disc. I think I got lucky or whatever and didn't encounter too many skeletons, but I saw a bunch of players get wrecked by the skeletons there, and I thought that that area might have been too hard, and maybe the entire Silver Ruin should have had the skeletons turned off. But I did definitely appreciate it here in the very starting area because when the player has no armor and no ranged attacks or whatever, like skeletons are a very overpowered mob.
Yeah. Um, I'm actually gonna mess around more with skeletons because I learned actually how you could make skeleton arrows slower.
Oh
So I
wow.
could make it so I could make it so you can literally just walk around the arrows. Like you can basically just walk sideways around a skeleton like this,
Uh huh. And it'll
and
always
they
be
will
missing you way behind
always
you.
miss you.
All
And I'm
right.
even making it so that, say, this is the skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, let me actually do this properly. Very, this is a very tall skeleton.
Ty says, make an area where you are Neo.
Yeah, yeah, but basically it's that. It's basically I'm also bending the trajectory a bit so that when the player's closer, they'll actually shoot way closer as well. Just in favor of the player because
I don't understand what you're saying.
um if you still slow the arrows, then
Uh-huh.
when you get close, they will still hit you. But say you slow
Oh,
it
right,
too
right,
much,
right.
you
Yeah, yeah,
stand
yeah.
farther away,
Yep.
then it will just hit there, and then they just will never be able to hit me.
Got it.
So I'm basically also changing it so that when you get closer, the arrows get slowed down even more,
Got it. So
just
you
so
can
you can
still
always
circle
just
around when you get into melee range, and it's not the
yeah,
case.
because I think it's more important to have fun than make it
I
difficult,
see.
especially with
Would it be like a
mistra.
different textured mob, and then you eventually have normal skeletons later on in the map or something? So, or
I could do that, but so far I was thinking of having every bow mob have slowed arrows,
I see.
except for when you're outside of like 13 range, then there will be normal skeletons.
I see.
And then you have crossbow enemies like
Oh, right.
the pillagers, which aren't in this map, and they will just shoot normally.
I see. Yeah, it's good to like have the distinction so there could still be somebody who has kind of the normal attack or whatever. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Another convention I borrowed from Hollow Knight, and that's one I kind of did, but never really intentionally thought about, is always have multiple entrances to areas.
Yes, this area, sorry, this map was highly interconnected, and I noticed many people commenting about that. Um, but yeah, it feels much more Metroidvania in that regard because, like in Hollow Knight, like there's like six different movement power ups, and like there's a number of areas that you can get to via having one or another of different upgrades, and the secrets that you could unlock, and some of them were one way in this map, felt very much like that, and this was the most Metroidvania-y in terms of the connectedness CTM map that I think I played.
Yeah, I wanted to actually also make because I told you about it. Had a scrap map.
Right?
There was originally going to be this map, and it was going to be like mirrored caves, but style in terms of how areas are connected, but straight up Metroidvania. But that's almost impossible to do in this game
Because everything is
if
just so
you,
destructible. Yeah.
yeah, if you exclude the knowledge gap. Because I could basically have like say I have a cross of these blocks, and I teach the player, oh, you should put TNT there, and then something with commands creates a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if the player plays it the second time, then he's instantly just knows what to do. So
Right.
that kind of, or it watches a let's play even. So that doesn't work. And then you could have maybe you could have command trickery, maybe I guess, with like you need fire resistant gear, otherwise you would just instantly catch on fire.
Mm-hmm.
But then becomes also it feels really cheesy,
Yeah.
more really like a gate. And
Right. So, okay, so where on the spectrum, like in the intersections or whatever, like you had to find intersection two and then make your way via the tunnel back to the ritual grounds, and then you press a button and it unlocks the barriers in the bedrock or whatever. So that was, kind of an explicit one-way gate. And so, like,
Mhm.
where does that kind of thing fit into the spectrum of what you're talking about, like in terms of uh,
Well,
like a gate
that button
versus
back
a
that button back is just a shortcut back.
right?
I feel that's different than
Because you've already been there,
literally
whereas this would be a way to go
exactly.
ahead. I see.
Like say I have a sign, this is Crystal Mines, and I need a double jump,
Right.
but I don't have a double jump yet.
Right.
Then it becomes really obvious if your mechanic is literally, hey, you need to have this item.
Right. I see.
Then it really becomes a
It's just a
key.
key or a gate or yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's also because that's a CTM trope that gets done in bigger maps where there's literal key items, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
obvious that it's a key item as well.
Right.
And some players don't like those. So I would rather be really subtle with it and more gameplay enhanced, like a double jump.
Right.
But yeah, that requires new abilities, I guess. So as you walk over the bridge, you basically get a preview of the
Right.
castle.
And one of the things I definitely wasn't thinking of it here. I guess it was mostly just kind of a no, it wasn't just a vista view here. It was also an opportunity to see the hidden chest that's down here. You're very intentional whenever there's a broken piece of the bridge, and it happens at least one other place later in this map. When there's a broken place in the bridge, it means there's something for you to see, and I feel like that's something that like I don't know if it started with Vex, but like any good map maker or whatever is good at having places where there's like a vantage point that if you're paying attention, this is an obvious vantage point where you're going to see something else important.
Yeah, funnily enough, that's that chest right down there on the bridge.
Uh huh.
It's actually one of the last things I put in the map
I see.
when I like did the first beta releases.
Hmm.
It was actually more just to show you the tree that the Enderman is violating. Yeah, it's more to show the tree down there, kind of also to suggest you can go forward, or you can just jump down into the water.
Right.
It's really your choice what to do here.
And yeah, I was surprised actually when watching people play the map. Like I've seen two
Nobody.
people who found the mines upstairs like first.
Yes, yes, that's option free. That is
Right. And so you
hidden.
could go immediately to the bonus area there. Preox and Travel Dog ended up like climbing around here and finding their way to the ritual grounds very
Option
early in the
four.
map before
Yep.
going other places.
There's
Um,
like there are a lot of these like delicate walkways. There's one on the opposite side as well, down lower, right here.
let me get my, I think I have a teleport command somewhere in here. Yeah. All right,
Okay.
where?
There's one right here. It's just this walkway.
I lost you again. Gosh darn
Oh, sorry.
it.
Sure,
I'm teleporting.
same
Yeah.
my level, same my level.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So you can basically also walk here, and then you can get into intersection 2 from
Or intersection
a
one.
little place here. Oh, sorry, intersection 1
I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from a little place right here.
Yep.
So there's so many ways to just go in. It's also a
Right.
little dungeon here.
I can't remember. I think I saw one person find this maybe.
This was not in your version.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel better about not finding it at least.
I when I add updates, I quite often just add random stuff as well.
I see. Well, yeah, I mean, your style of map making, like, in order to have as many different secrets and things as you do, I have to imagine that every pass, every time you come back to the map, you're adding like two more things, and that's how we get it to like once you finish the
Yeah,
map a year later to be as
I
dense
added
as
a
they
lot.
are.
I had a lot more enchanted crossbows as people were saying they were lacking in the map. So if you find a chest with a crossbow, you know it's a chest you could not have been able to find.
I see. I there was one crossbow in my map at the beginning, um,
Okay.
over
Oh yeah, in the tower. Yeah,
yeah,
and there's one in the
over
tower.
there. Yeah.
That one is on purpose,
Okay.
or not on purpose. Yeah, yeah, that was initially there.
Right. That's why I
Okay.
learned a little bit about crossbows. Okay, so we're back at the beginning of the map.
Mm-hmm.
There's
After
an
the fight.
obvious direction to go because there's a big bridge that's lit up and there's a tree that's lit up and you don't have any tools or anything and so you want to get wood and so you're going to come over to the tree, but you're also going to by way of it see the gate or whatever and see that there's obviously a place to go over here once you have a
Yeah,
pickaxe.
it's like torches around. It's double gated. It's just that should scream, "Hey, come over here!"
Right.
And then you basically grab the tree, and then you get some wood, and then of course, as is tradition, I had to
Right.
I
I
had
heard
to
you like
trap
traps. And then I
something.
guess this one doesn't do anything, but then,
Uh, originally this one just didn't do anything.
right,
Like there was no TNT anywhere.
right.
I'm not sure if this one is a double one or not. I used to have
You've
a joke
updated
in
it a couple times?
Goliath.
Okay.
I had a joke in Goliath where the literally like 5 or 6 pressure plates underneath each other. So every time you would break one, the next one would trigger. But for this one, I guess you only did 2,
I
and then
see.
put it.
Right. Um, and yeah, I think somewhere in the map also you had it where, and I've been waiting for this trap for a long time because it's been long overdue, and so finally in this map where you subverted expectations, it was done somewhere. But basically, the obvious block wasn't the trap, but if you try to dig underneath it, that sets off the trap. Um,
Yes.
And so I've been waiting for like 7 years for someone to do that trap. So thank you for finally doing it.
That I think I saw it in Ragecraft, or it's like
Yeah, it might have
the
been
most
in some other maps too. Yeah.
the most obvious gravel block underneath a chest in the first area. And people who played his maps before know that he just puts gravel like at least in every area. There's a gravel under a chest as like a trap, and then he
And
just circumvented it.
yeah, and then I don't remember if I came over here really hardly at all in my playthrough. Um, because yeah, I got my wood and I saw the obvious door to go through or whatever, but I guess there was some zombie spawners over here and maybe a little bit of loot and something down at the bottom.
Yeah. So there's mostly coal. There's two zombie spawners, and there's this the one chest. So with boots and swords for multiplayer.
Right.
Some extra wood. So there's quite a bit of
Question.
coal. Yeah.
You gave out wooden swords there. The player has immediate access to stone in this map. Was there any particular reason that you just made it wood tier stuff that was in the initial chests?
That's probably because I originally everything was gonna be different block. Everything was a different block, but I don't remember what block it was.
I see. So this wasn't originally stone, kind of when you originally made the area.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, when it was a one intersection map, everything wasn't stone.
Got it.
It was,
Okay.
it was some stone-like blocks, so like andesite or diorite, or might have been just clay as well.
All right. Well, when you update those things in the future, you got to update the loot too, render.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I'm
I
a
saw,
lazy map maker.
yeah, I don't even think I found that chest possibly, but yeah, I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh my gosh, a wood sword! Why am I ever going to use this?" So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to represent their voice.
Yeah, I do give that. That's a bit silly.
All right, but yeah, so people who are looking for secret loot can you pretty easily come down here or whatever. Like if you see the chest down here, like there's only a couple of little jumps they have to make, and it's not too hard to
Hmm.
traverse.
And then there's a little money cachet on your right as you walk back as well. Like right here. Ching.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not see
So
that.
basically, the nice thing about the money cachet is that I don't have to put the player inside of an inventory.
And yeah, for people who are watching the stream, like this is whatever color stained clay, like light gray stained clay, or whatever it's called. What's it called? Stained clay? Gray
Terracotta.
terracotta.
Stained clay is the old name. They changed it.
All right, light gray terracotta. But this would be the amethyst or now the garnet nugget blocks. And I just don't have the
Money.
resource pack going
Yeah.
in multiplayer.
Yeah. So the nice thing about the money geode veins is that it's kind of like the wheat blocks. I talked about this in my horrify developer commentary,
Mm-hmm.
where I try to avoid putting players inside of inventories too much.
Right. Avoid
That's another
chests.
small
Use
pet peeve I
blocks.
have is after literally in every room I can find another chest. And why do that when you can just quickly put some money down, some coal blocks down, and just give resources that way and just make the player move on quicker. And also put everything in the world instead of in a menu,
Mm-hmm.
which adds to the immersion.
Right. And so this kind of feeds back into one of the things we were talking about before, which is rather than splash potions, you could have like different foods give different things. One of the things I was going to ask, but it kind of like we're going kind of even further than that, is there's like when you did have a potions chest, it would be a chest and it would have a like pink block or purple block or I forget what color block on top of it with a little
Yeah.
sign that says potions, whatever. I was originally thinking like rather than have the block and the sign, like since you're retexturing so many blocks, like you could have a block that has like a potion, um, you know, item kind of like looking design on the side of it or whatever. That you would just be able to see the texture of the block from a distance away, and it would communicate what the thing is. And then
Good one as well.
the next step from that is you don't even need the chest at that point. You could have mining the block since now you can state, you know, what items drop when you mine a block or whatever. Like you could even like drop the potions or whatever, like when you mine those particular blocks, and there could be
Yeah.
like a cache of potion blocks or something kind of thing.
That's something for Untold Stories number 8 is instead of chests, for example, you could
Mm-hmm.
find you could find this, for example, and then you do yoink, yoink. And then you could, for example, give out loot this way as well. Instead of a chest, you could
I
give out loot
see.
invisible item frames.
Do they
This again
render
makes
from? It looks like they render from any distance away. Okay, that's good.
yeah, there's probably quite a there's a quite a bit of a limit. But yeah, I would
Right.
put these in more enclosed things and
I think they
kind of
are
how
entities, and so there's, yeah, like a slight danger in terms of performance of having too many of them in any particular area as well. But
yeah, and that also kind of harkens back to I could also do it in combination with like kind of a Final Fantasy. Free to always uses those loot pedestals.
right, yeah, because the chest wouldn't render from far away, and he wanted people to see him from far away, and so he created the pedestal.
Yeah, so yeah, I could use that in combination
Right,
if it's not in an enclosed room.
right. Um,
Or oh, actually, just like a lantern or something next to it is also a good idea.
right.
Something to basically indicate.
And there's also armor stands is another way, especially if it's like, weapons and armor or whatever. Like, um, you can interact with armor stands in order to like pick up things like that and be able to see it from a distance in different locations.
Yeah,
Is another way that you can hand out certain items in any case. Although I guess you could put most any item like in the hand of an armor stand. Once again, that's also going to be an entity and it's going to have drawing and rendering, so you don't necessarily want to do too much of it. I was glad at the end of the map for the gold music disc that I remembered how to interact with an armor stand in order to take the final disc. Um,
oh yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think especially with something like this, like even with invisible item frames, like I would try left clicking and right clicking on this item in order to try to pick it up. So eventually you would figure out what's going on and be able to do it.
Yeah, especially these ones are pretty interesting or pretty easy because you either right click and it's like, oh, that doesn't do anything, and you punch it.
Uh huh.
You can punch it again to get the item frame, but I don't care too much about that.
Yeah. Um. Yeah.
You can put it on and continue on your merry way. And that would also help, because I know you always say like every CTM maps need like 20% of the loot they have.
Right. So also, it's going to be a trade-off again. We were talking about different death mechanics and giving people the option to do one thing or another. Like I feel like if you have keep inventory or the death totems or whatever, like you need less loot in the map because you're less likely to lose it. But if you're going to give people the option to still lose all their stuff, then you do need to keep giving them loot. And so I'm not sure how to mediate those two trade-offs or whatever. But anyway, go
Yes,
ahead.
I was thinking for Untold Stories 9 on that front, like with scoreboards, you can actually control loot tables now. So say I could have like a random loot that would basically double the loot if there are two players, for
Oh, so the
example.
player could make a selection at the beginning of the game, and then it would affect the loot tables all throughout the game after that. And
Yeah.
so,
Or just it literally detects, hey, there are three people playing. Make
right,
sure it triples the loot or whatever you want to
right,
do to compensate.
yeah. So yeah, again, that
Um,
takes more effort in terms of the map maker design, but yeah, it would be a good way to solve those, or at least try to address those issues that we're talking about in terms of the
yeah.
trade-offs.
But yeah, I think most CTMs have too much stuff because I'm really a fan of the old survival feel.
Right,
And so many after so many chests in the first or second area, you immediately lose that feeling because you have five chest plates and three helmets and
right.
yada yada. If I don't use chests and um, use the item frames,
Hmm.
then it would really already like I cannot just put a full on 27
Right, yeah. It's only going
amount
to
of
be three
items.
or four items at most, yeah,
So
in any little
that will
cache.
immediately make me limit my loot placing a lot more.
Right. Um, yeah, so that's
Yeah,
definitely interesting in terms of thinking about that.
that's it's one of the dilemmas I have is placing too much loot, and
Yeah, it's
that's
it's,
just
it's
difficult.
yeah, and so it's kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent, but that's another reason the currency system in this game is so good, is because if you want to give the player a small reward because they found a secret, like three amethyst or depending upon where you are in the map, nuggets or whatever, is always a nice reward, and it doesn't feel bad even when it's redundant because you're working your way up to being able to purchase a big thing, whereas another sword or another chest plate often is redundant. So yeah.
Yes, that's actually quite often when I there were like mapping events, and then we would map all on the same server, basically making
Uh-huh.
different areas, and then people would not be able to come up with their loot, and I basically say just give out like the essential stuff like torches, coal, cobble, wood,
Consumables.
arrows, consumables. That's what I used to call it.
Yep.
And I basically took another step back from that and said, I'm just going to give out one item with which you can get all the others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's money.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I basically just applied Render's Law to Render's Law.
Right. The consumables in the late game, yeah, there was somewhere in like probably around intersection 4 where like I'd see chests and I'd like take a peek in them and I'd just like leave all the loot behind because I didn't care, and I was like explicitly saying that I didn't care. Consumables were the one thing that are nice to have on the go rather than having to return to a merchant, because it's like if you run out of blocks to bridge your way over here, like having another stack of blocks in a chest is a great thing. But if I'm going into an
Yeah.
area, I'm not about to run out of a chest plate when I go into an
Yeah,
area.
I remember you saying multiple times in the Lonely Dark, you want a block chest,
Yeah.
and then you found some blocks in the chest,
Right. And
for
you know, an
example.
occasional like I mean, I definitely like, you know, Kit has a different play style than I do or whatever, and so Kit will have just, you know, ran out of torches or ran out of swords or ran out of pickaxe and finds those things in a chest, and so it suits him to find extra loot like that. But for me, it was
Yeah,
just kind of like annoying extra stuff to carry around. So there's trade-offs again in terms of different play styles.
and then that's really the problem. You have the dilemma of putting loot down in maps. Like you can never put too much loot down, but at the same time, it's way too easy to put too much loot down,
All right.
and it just depends per player, really.
Yeah. So
But yeah, deeper we go. Skeletons are still disabled in this section of the map. Does this little guy have a sword?
he does.
This guy is gonna wreck you so hard if you start with this.
So yeah, that was one of the things. Yeah, I was curious to ask about. Yeah, local difficulty and if you'd explicitly done anything. And so it was just kind of by being in the map for a while or whatever that I presume I don't even, does it show up on F3 screen? Local difficulty somewhere? I feel like it does.
Yeah, it should actually.
Local difficulty 1.5 day 0. No, it's not as high as it could be. I think. I don't remember all the way that Minecraft works. So if I'm saying something wrong, I apologize.
I have no idea how those numbers work
Okay.
actually.
I think 3.0 like might be the highest or something. And so like there's a what day of the map it is, and there's also what the local difficulty setting is, and like the two of them like somehow interact with one another. This is also like it might be outdated information in terms of new versions might have changed something. But it definitely there were a
Yeah.
bunch of mobs who spawned with like items or enchanted, you know, like not higher order stuff or whatever. I think I only encountered like one random punch skeleton somewhere in the map that I can remember. Um, but yeah, the fact that
I
it could happen was the thing.
I remember finding a few flamebow skeletons. Those are nasty.
Yeah, that could definitely, especially if you just happen to get unlucky at the start of the map. Um, but yeah, it definitely. Um, yeah, I talked about it back at the beginning or whatever, but this little dungeon that you're running through, that we're running through, like wasn't bad when you're in close quarters, and you could easily kind of like block off the area, and kind of limit the number of mobs that you're encountering at any given time. Was kind of just fine. But yeah, then when I
Yeah.
got out into this courtyard or whatever, like
Yeah.
like I said, I
The
think I got lucky and didn't have too many skeletons, but I still struggled out here a little bit, and other people really struggled about like right at the beginning.
around here is where skeletons get instantly murdered. So if you bring a skeleton in here, then it
Hmm.
should just
Get teleported into the
disappear.
void or something. Yeah,
Yeah, and it is kind of blatant, but like,
there
how
isn't a
do I
good
make
way
that
to
not?
yeah to deal with it otherwise. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
donk.
Oh yeah, this guy just walked off into oblivion. But yeah, I never
Hmm.
witnessed it, and I don't remember seeing anybody else witness it either. So
I remember two people
okay,
witnessing it,
all right,
but yeah,
trade-offs. But yeah, I did
exactly.
appreciate that there weren't the skeletons, at least in the starting area. And there's a little bit more wood in here, which is nice. Once again, consumables that the player is going to need early on in block form in the map.
Especially wood. As long as the player doesn't have
A sapling,
saplings,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, always just give out some wood here and there because That's really a
Yep.
good consumable to give out. The chest on one end, and on the other end you have the emerald. I always try to at least put something. Quite often it's money in dead ends, so you will never find a dead end. I shouldn't say never, but
That
you
you're
will never
disappointed
find
in.
a. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then my should have probably put dyed like these different colors so you could actually read them.
Yeah, that would have been good. I forgot to actually put that on my list of things, but I did notice that.
Yeah, let me
Um,
actually.
and I found the phrasing of the explaining why there's two a little bit awkward, but everybody understood its meaning perfectly. So it worked out just fine.
Yeah, I'm also trying to also fit everything on one side.
Right, yeah, so yeah, it's kind of difficult. One thing that is, I didn't think about how you could change it or whatever, but I guess when you first get the emerald, maybe you have to be in survival mode. No, I got an advancement. Advancement made, bonus emerald progress. But if I go to
Uh,
the advancements tab, it doesn't actually unlock anything on the advancements tab until you actually put it in the monument.
yeah,
And so I think the first one, like, it should have gone ahead and granted the first one for the first emerald as a special case so that you'd actually see something interesting on the advancement tab.
hmm I,
Because
c-
I didn't use them at
I
all. I tried to find all the emeralds without any hints. But I think in terms of like making sure that people understand the gameplay, it would have made more sense to do that.
yeah, I basically did that because once you had one emerald in the monument, you could basically see the few ones you have in the few areas up ahead. So I basically didn't think about the very first one
Yeah,
and the
I
hints
think just the
around.
first one is the only one I would special case like that. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, let me quickly write down signs at first emerald. I'm gonna just take some notes in
Yeah, that's
case I
fine.
want to do another update.
But yeah, this was a nice little starter dungeon to get your first emerald. It was nice that every time you got the emeralds, you also got the golden apples. So it does kind of double duty, and it also means for people who aren't trying to do the extra challenge of getting all the emeralds, they still get a reward for having found the emerald chest, even if they don't care about collecting them all.
Yeah, the golden apples are really nice for two reasons. One, if you're running low on soul,
Mm-hmm.
and two, if you want to just use the spells a lot, you
Mm-hmm.
can actually just use your stockpile of golden apples for healing instead. So you
Right.
don't
If you
have
want to
to
use the
waste.
offensive spells, you mean? Yeah.
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 Um, and then there's more pits, especially when the area gets more open. I basically put the pits in. I try to also design my areas in stages. So stage one is you have the bridge and basically around the little canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Stage two is inside, so you go to close quarters.
Right.
And then stage three is even it's like the grandest, so it's kind of like the climax of the area.
Right.
And it's just really open again. So it's like open, closed, open.
Mm-hmm.
I try to design the areas in multiple stages, so you're just not walking through one.
I did have a vague
Um,
sense of kind of a pattern like that in a number of areas throughout the map. One of the things that also makes initial areas difficult, I feel like, for the player is whenever you come into a new map,
openness.
you're kind of getting a feel for the map maker's style. Like if they've already played previous maps by you, it probably helps some. But a lot of, I don't know if it's the majority necessarily, but a lot of your dungeons in this map feel like they had kind of there was the area and then there was like a dungeon part of the area near the disc. Um,
Yes.
and so there was kind of like a border, even if it wasn't a physical border, kind of like between the two that you could kind of like feel the difference. But in the first few areas, it wasn't necessarily as obvious that that pattern was going to hold up. And especially, I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of myself or whatever, but in area two with Brightwater, like the dungeony part of Brightwater that was indoors, like a lot of people didn't even realize it was the same dungeon because it was such a transition.
Yeah, it was
Um,
quite dramatic in that one.
yeah, and so I don't know exactly how to mitigate that because some of it is just kind of like, people getting a feel for what's going on with the map, but
Yeah, it's
it was a thing I
basically
noticed.
planning out more and just transitioning better. Um, then we have the
Infernizer.
return of the Infinizer, the advanced one.
Someone asked me in a YouTube comment recently where the name came from. Like, did you just make it up, or I don't remember if there was any backstory.
It came from my very first map, Goliath. It came from there.
Right? Yeah.
And I don't remember how I actually got it because that's 6 years ago that I made it.
Okay. That's fine.
But I think it mainly came from, well, I kind of liked how the battle sign had like multiple levels.
Right.
So I kind of wanted like that idea of my own, just an item that would occur and have multiple levels.
Hmm.
And well, yeah, and Inferno sounded cool, so I probably added Infernizer to it. That would probably be my guess. And it used to be a blaze rod, and in Calamity Canyon I changed it to a flint and steel.
Right. Yes, because the flint and steel has the awesome effect. There's a creeper standing right here if you want to show it off.
Yeah,
Um,
because we
that
talked about that in Myriad, I think, actually.
I see. And like the post game
Not,
devcom, like is when we came up with the idea or something, or
well, at first I remember saying that I had Creeper Eggs, which had knockback too.
oh
So
yeah,
when
yeah,
you had a stack
yeah.
of them, you would hit a mob and or you would hit the creeper, and the creeper would automatically also explode in like 5 seconds.
Right,
So you would hit it and it would fly over, and then you would hit it with the knockback too, so it would fly over farther.
right. And you could use it as a short range weapon attack
Yeah,
against
and
other
now
mobs.
instead I put it on the actual like Infernizer on the flint and steel.
Hmm. And so yeah, I guess if we open it up, it's got knockback. It's got mending, which is nice, which means it's going to stick around unless you're very kind of careless with it. And yeah, if you right click on a creeper with a flint and steel, they will have like a, is it like a 2 second timer? I don't even know.
30 is the fuse, so 1.5.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you can right click and then left click and
Yes.
cause them to
If it's,
explode, but then hit them somewhere else.
yeah. Let me quickly.
And I don't know that I did it at all. Like, I rarely use the Infernizer. Um, I think partially because of the fact that the swords were kind of improved melee weapons in this game. Like, and I discovered that since you could spam them, they were very good weapons.
Yeah, I remember at least from at least from Calamity Canyon, because Calamity Canyons I can never have the same like levels, same enchantments. There's
Hmm.
never a consistency between my items. Because if you look at the Infernizers, they all have different sharpness levels and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But I should have made them a little bit more powerful, but everybody because nobody really uses them that much. Even though they're still pretty good. But yeah, you can just get better stuff yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that weapon a whole lot. I didn't use it very much because, like I said, the swords were good, and also like I tend to focus on one weapon at a time because I'm not good at juggling a bunch of things on my hotbar. But other people are, and so I imagine like yeah, having options like this is always
Yeah,
fun.
it's that's also how I actually play the game, and that's where my logic comes from. I always have two or three melee weapons. So I have a smite weapon, a knockback weapon, and a damage dealing weapon, so sharpness.
I see. Yeah, knockback
So
weapons are yeah, especially like super important in a lot of CTM maps because they can prevent you from being overwhelmed or let you do some crowd control.
yeah, and that's exactly what the Infernizer's second function is. Mainly what the original Infernizer also was trying to do is
Right.
have a knockback weapon, but it also set the mobs on fire.
Right. So it did some dot damage and yeah, damage over
Yeah.
time.
Mm, I have some just straight up ruins, which
Yeah.
doesn't have too much going on. Just basically some ruins to fill up the empty space.
Yeah. And already like I guess there were a bunch of spiders kind of like toward the end of the dungeon, but already like a creeper spawner up high. I feel like I imagine like there's as many creeper spawners as all other spawners combined in the map would be my guess. Which feels about right, I think, for like CTM maps these days. Um,
Yeah, because
they're
the
such an
mobs
interesting
in
mob.
Minecraft. Yeah, because it's basically a melee mob that
Hmm.
changes the terrain. You have zombies, which are basically useless because they are slow and are basically, if you have too many spawners, they're just spam.
Hmm.
They're literally spam. That's what they're made for. They're filler mobs.
Right.
And you have spiders, which
Can
are
traverse the terrain.
Yeah, they're interesting. They need feather falling, Mojang, please. They used to have this sonar thing, but that's long been removed, and I'm kind of
Right, where they
sad.
can track you through the walls. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sad that isn't a thing anymore. You have skeletons, which are way too powerful. They used to be the only creepers and skeletons used to be the only viable ones. Now
Uh-huh.
skeletons can be too powerful.
Uh-huh.
And then you kind of have had all the mobs, really. Like the main ones, at least.
Right. I
You
mean,
could have,
yeah, those are the mobs that, you go back to
because
like
Magma
Minecraft
Cube.
Beta 1.4 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have Enderman. Well, Enderman are like the strong mobs that you don't want to look at. They're combinational mobs.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Magma Cubes, which are annoying. Let's be honest, especially when you use many.
Uh-huh.
So Magma Cubes are really good in combination with skeletons
Uh-huh.
because you can't run through Magma Cubes. So you put a skeleton next to it, and then you have a melee and a ranged one, and the melee one is slow to kill, and there's a skeleton in the back, which you have to focus on the Magma Cube.
Right.
Also, Enderman plus skeleton is a good one because
Right.
yeah, looking and
Yep.
firing a bow, and then
Right.
the Enderman. Um,
But yeah, the set of
and then
mobs is pretty limited, and so yeah, that definitely makes it so that
yeah,
creepers are going to be a popular mob throughout.
yeah, you could of course use custom mobs to make quicker zombies, which I have done in Corona Trials with the husks, for
Right.
example.
Right.
And then you
Um,
also have cave spiders, but
right. Yeah,
everybody
cave
has them.
spiders and baby zombies, like they're good ideas in theory, but the hitbox problems kind of make them annoying to do in practice.
Yeah, and that's where the sword mechanic, these fastest swords, came in quite late.
Mm-hmm.
When 1.16 released, they added attributes, and I had a whole convoluted mechanic that just felt too convoluted to put in the map before.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I saw you could just change the base damage,
Got it.
one command, I was like, or base speed, I was like,
Right.
okay, if you hold a sword, you change your base speed. Done.
Yep. And yeah, it
Because
seems like yeah, everyone who discovered that like seems to like that because um yeah, it's a good change. And I guess the base speed that you give it like is not like completely spammy, but the wind up is pretty slow or pretty quick, whatever I'm trying to say.
yeah, I did a double take because I at first really liked the slower attack speed because I didn't
Uh-huh.
like the spamming because it just makes the gameplay so slow that
Right.
you kind
It's
of want
like
a
hit a
quicker one
mob,
again.
give some ground, hit a mob, give some ground, hit a mob, give some
Yeah,
ground.
then I would rather just have the spam clicking and have a different system in place.
Yeah. Someone's asking in the chat, and it was a question that I was going to have as well. Like, there were also a lot of Endermen in these first few areas, and I think you had talked to me and said that basically at some point Minecraft made it so that Endermen who were holding a block never despawn, and so that
I
was probably the reason because there were so many blocks here that they could pick up or something. Um, and
is that
so
not is that not in this version?
is what not in this version? Sorry.
I thought I actually added that to this version of the map, but I might have missed that.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen any Endermen holding blocks. So you're saying you made it so that they couldn't pick up these blocks anymore?
Yeah, because they now get it from a JSON file, similar to loot
Right.
tables.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's
there's
just a
like a
block
pick
tag
upable.
called.
Yeah.
Oh, you can actually check it just by doing F3. Hashtag Minecraft Enderman holdable. Okay, let me add that back to the list.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I see it
that's a
on
very
the
good point.
mycelium or whatever. Yeah, or the
Yeah,
gravel. Yeah.
I'm not the most organized. As No Leaf Clover said, I'm an insane person.
All right, but yeah, making that change definitely would improve these starting areas as well. I think I died to Enderman like twice in the first three areas or something, and there were just
Yeah,
so many, and they never despawned. And yeah, when you don't have any armor or anything, like yeah, you just get wrecked if they look at them.
I don't know if it's a toggle or if it's literally just he picks up a block, he's never gonna go away now. 'Cause that seems weirdly programmed, but on the other end, we're talking about Mojang here, so
Yeah, I mean it's a kind of difficult trade-off in terms of having a mob that can do griefing kind of stuff or whatever, and so um, yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Um.
Anyway,
So yeah, there's So there's just this open section with some ruins here and there again. Most of the spawners and stuff that are now are just on second levels in general. Trying to also teach the player, hey, you should also look up more.
Uh-huh. I don't know,
And then with
like I feel like you're good at saying like try to teach players to do that or whatever, but I don't know that anybody ever learns.
yeah, I just think it's also a very good idea to add height to anything. That's one of the first mistakes new map makers do is everything is flat.
Right. And
And
admittedly,
that's
in this
go
map,
ahead.
there's a few sections, especially a number of the bonus dungeons are very flat. And when the player has speed or some good weapons or different things or whatever, like the occasional run and gun kind of section where you can just like run through and light everything up, and there's no environmental blocks to your movement, and you can just go as fast as you want or whatever, they can be fun to play. I wouldn't want the whole
Yeah, that
map to
is
be like
fun as
that, but
well.
occasionally having a place like that is fun.
That's actually the mentality that Corona Trials was based off on because that makes really it easier.
Hmm.
And I don't think this map has a few areas like that. But yeah, most of it I try to add verticality
Right,
to also keep it more interesting. And verticality is it's hard to avoid when you want to make everything interconnected.
right.
So that came just with the area
Yeah.
designs.
And yeah, with all the block height that's available these days, like it's just like take advantage of it. Like 255, you got like all these awesome vistas and all these different kind of cool areas that you can interconnect.
There's a big chance they're gonna change it. So it's gonna with a data pack you can select the height. And I saw someone already who made it where you the max height is to 512 on the top and then negative 512, so you have 1000 blocks to work with, which
I
is
see. Is there a vertical render distance then?
not yet because it's an experimental thing,
I
but
see.
I
Yeah.
really hope
So
they do make
performance
it.
problems, yeah, if they don't, because even just when they went
Yeah,
to 256 or whatever, like it introduced a
I
bunch of performance
I am
problems.
scared it's gonna create the problem back in the day where they created Anvil, the Anvil world format,
Right.
which is 1.2. And then it basically kills every plugin, every mapping tool that exists. Because
Right.
that's almost what already happened with 1.13 because they changed blocks used to be stored in a number value,
Right. Yeah.
and now they're stored in a string value, so it's now
Right.
a word. So this block is literally stored as Minecraft semicolon stone.
Right.
And it used to be just one because
Yep.
that's so that already ruined a lot of tools, and I'm scared it's gonna do that again, but even worse.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
tangents.
Data. Yeah. In this area, I remember when I played this, like I came up here and like until I was on top of the box, like I'd never seen the box coming. I did see a number of people who spotted it from much farther away. Was there a
Hmm.
particularly good vantage point that you'd set up to like see it over here, or like
Um, there's
in
this one
general?
from
Like,
here.
yeah, I don't. I was just
Yeah,
wondering
this
about
one from
design
the
thoughts.
start. It explicitly uses obsidian with sandstone with yellow,
Right.
and then the gray glass to really give it like, hey, what's that over there? And you can also see it from the tower, like the central tower, if you really
Hmm.
could not find it.
I see.
And those were just the main two vantage points.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really trying to tutorialize, hey, this is something you want to look out for.
Right. And Um, we're not quite there yet. Like the way the intersection is kind of like hidden and kind of like blends into this area was really cool. There's kind of this building over here that like it was hard to tell if it was part of this area or part of a different area. And I guess this is still technically Silver Ruins, although it's kind of just like side loot that could be part of Basalt Passage or anything
Yes,
really.
that's the problem with me putting the wool in the halfway point of the area and stuff at the end. Because everybody is as a almost all CTM maps
Hmm.
put the wool at the end of an
Right,
area,
right.
right? Like why would you put it halfway between? And that's kind of why this feels also so not part of the area because it's after the halfway point.
I see. So this was intended to be just more Silver Ruins, and it just
Yeah,
happened to be
just
after the wall.
it's just more area, and it's just
I think the first shield is in here, or there might have also been
yeah,
one on top of the tower, maybe.
yeah. I think it's the first shield.
Yeah. In any
It's just
case, this is
pretty
related
late.
to wherever you had the skeleton border. Like, I wouldn't have minded if there was another shield somewhere near the beginning of where skeletons first appear, just to help mitigate the skeletons at the beginning.
Yeah, and then you have a vista over here with a lot of coal.
Indeed. I don't remember if I came out here really at all.
Um, there isn't really a need to.
But yeah, it was also the
Um,
case that in the first areas, like feeling underpowered and just trying to get a feel for the map and didn't really have a good place to set up base yet. Like I also wasn't taking as much time to admire the views and vistas as I was just trying to survive.
mhm.
That's a nice piece of armor.
Mm, there's a lot of stuff in this first area as well, where the player just doesn't get to unless they actually like explore and
Right.
um, yeah, just basically looks around.
I can't remember if I saw anyone find that or not.
I think TJ found it, but
I
yeah,
see.
you didn't see TJ.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
there's also, we already passed it, I guess back, well, I guess it's kind of down at the base of
the
the,
potion chest, or
I was going to say back from the bridge, but I guess it's kind of down at the lake level. Um, but the mini ripper
oh yeah,
that's hidden way over here. And yeah, of course, no leaf clover instantly saw it from like a mile away because he sees
yeah.
everything.
Well, I mean, I think this one is blatantly obvious, but I'm a map maker, so
Right.
it's not
I
that
mean, it's
obvious.
obvious if there's enough light, maybe. Like, there is skylight nearby, and so it is not like in darkness by any means. Um, but yeah, I don't remember when I was down at this level. There's also like there was iron like underground or under the water. Like there were other kind of distractions, and I was probably
Yeah,
between, this area and this area, probably on the bridge, and so
it's
it
just a
is. I mean, now that I know that it's there, like even just kind of like glancing out of the corner of my eye, it definitely kind of jumps out at me as like, oh, this is definitely a circular thing, and this is meant to be something to dig through to go find this crazy place where you get a nice item. But
uh-huh.
I totally didn't see it.
I love tridents in this game. They're not the best weapons, but I really like them just because of they're kind of like a. I just used to love the bow very much,
Hmm.
but the bow it's the only ranged weapon. It's the same arc, so you're kind of just used to how it works.
Right,
And this is a different arc,
right.
so I enjoy doing trick shots, quote unquote trick shots with
Ah,
this
I
because it's a
see.
different arc. And that's what I
Okay.
used to love with the bow, is just shooting it halfway and shooting it over walls to hit
Uh-huh.
mobs.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that have just gotten old because I wish you could change the arc of the bow to make it more interesting. Like a shoot farther or shoot shorter kind of
Yeah.
enchantment. Kind of how Breath of the Wild. I don't know if you've played that game.
I played like a few minutes of it, so
Okay,
not really.
bows in that game have they go straight and then they make an arc, and the amount that they go straight is determined per like bow. They have different
Okay.
values for that,
Uh-huh.
and I
That's cool.
really like that system.
Right.
I kind of wish there it was similar for the bow, but
Ark in my chat pointed out that he was able to hear the fires when he was close to this wall, so that's another way to find it. One thing that was really good in Hollow Knight was the sound design and like all the little glowy things or whatever like made a sound when you were within a certain distance of them on screen if you were listening carefully. And so I don't know how well that would work in, oh yeah, in the grubs, yeah, of course. I don't know how
mhm.
well kind of like sound hints would work in Minecraft kind of stuff, but that could be an interesting thing to have some kind of audio source, either something static like a fire or something with a command block or something that could possibly
Yeah,
ping the player to like find some kind of secret.
there are a few audio cues in this map,
I
and
see.
this is one of them. And
Okay.
this is
I
actually
didn't
one
realize it
that
was explicit. Okay.
this one actually kind of instigated them because I put the fire down because it's blue
Uh huh. And it
and
looks cool.
prismarine. Yeah, it looks cool. And I was like, but you hear the noise from outside. Do you actually want to really keep that in? And I was like, yes, because it's actually kind of a hint on that there is something. And then I started to use that on other spots where you can hear spiders. For example, there's a hidden diamond sword in the submarine castle, and you can hear it via spider sounds.
I see.
So yeah,
I don't remember if I found that one or not.
I don't think you
I don't
did.
think I did.
I know BSM. Oh wait, yeah, I know BSM found it, but that was via me.
Right. In terms of, we talked before about how long we're going to go, so I just want to like keep an eye on the time. Are there other things we want to talk about in the Silver Ruins, and then maybe kind of like finish up at Intersection 1?
I'm mostly done with Section 1. I actually wouldn't mind taking a like 5-minute break, really quick,
Okay.
if that's okay.
And then do you want to continue? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's take a short break.